whenever we describe cultural region, we absolutely have to think about this whole core domain sphere idea. And once again, core domain sphere, I didn't come up with the names, but it's definitely, when we think about, talking like a geographer, when we refer to regions, that's just how we talk. So we have those core areas, those dominated areas where that cultural form is the most present. But as you go away from that core area, it definitely starts to diminish and fade away. So let's look at some examples, some specific examples of cultural regions. So if we're going to look at cultural regions, then why not let's look at popular culture, since obviously it's popular, it's obviously well known, so hopefully we can all relate to these different examples. And so what they have here is the Facebook fan map. What they did is they essentially tallied up all throughout the country, all the people who like a certain football team, their page on Facebook, and then they find out where they live, and they made a map. So think about, once again, GIS, computer mapping. This would have been impossible to do 20, 30 years ago. Find out all throughout the country and give a percentage of all the various fan regions of different NFL teams throughout the country. It'd be impossible. Now it's very easy to do. So this is the Facebook fan map. So here, what they did was they then identified different cultural regions, let's say. So what we can do is we can use these cultural region maps, these fan region maps, to essentially identify the core areas. The core areas are just going to be whatever city they're located in. That's going to be the core area. But then these also, what they do is they show the domains. And so the Colts, we look at the Colts domain is for the most part all of Indiana. We can see, the biggest domain would be the Broncos. Why? That's a very lightly populated area, and if you look at the market area for the Broncos, there isn't another team anywhere really near them, and so because of that, they have a big fan region. So it's not just because of Peyton. So also what we got is we got different size regions, and we'll come back and explain this later in the text. We'll look at different in a future chapter, try to explain, well, why are in big urban areas, why are they real small, but then when you get out in rural areas, they're really, really big. So like I said, this is a cultural region map that shows the core, which is wherever the city of the certain team is located, and the domain, which is whatever color it's shown here. And the Facebook map shows that if we zoom into to the Colts, to the Midwest, you'll find that for the most part, all of Indiana are Colts fans. The only exception is, of course, as you get closer to Chicago. What's fascinating, though, also is the role of borders. And so you see the Illinois border, for the most part, separates Bears and Colts fans, just like the Ohio border, for the most part, separates Bengals and Colts fans. But of course, there is some overlap. Now you look at a state like Kentucky, which is definitely kind of in the middle of the Rams area, middle of the Cincinnati, Colts, now the Titans. And so for Kentucky, they're very much in the transition zone, which explains why there are all kinds of colors there. But, another reason why Colts are also more popular there in Kentucky is they're crazy about horses. So another kind of characteristic there as well. Colts obviously as a reference to horses. So what we have here is, if we zoom in, we can see different fan regions. I also like how the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers, it pretty much stops there at the state line. But Kentucky, very similar to Iowa, in which it's kind of a transition. It's kind of an area that doesn't have a team in their state, but it's got some proximity to other core areas, core fan regions. Of course, now Twitter, they got in the game too, and so they made a map, a similar map, the Twitter map. And so here we can, what they did was at least they put in the core areas now. So now we can really see those core areas, and each of those core areas are, the NFL team, the text there, and the little place mark that shows them. So this is another way to showcase core and domain of different fan regions. And finally, to put to bed the whole cultural region, when we look at the Colts fan region, I would argue this blue area represents the core area. And so Indianapolis, definitely Marion County, obviously where the team is located. But if you look at the fan base, the people who are most likely to go to the football games, most likely to have season tickets, it's going to be all of those in those blue surrounding counties. For example, in Boone County, 54% of Boone County residents, which is the highest in the state for any county, are Colts fans. Similarly, Hendricks County, Hamilton County, Johnson County, Hancock County are all in the 52%. So the highest percentage of Colts fans found anywhere in any county are those particular surrounding counties. Where do we not find Colts fans? Definitely in those orange counties at the top. There in those lake counties, LaPorte, only 10% of LaPorte residents are Colts fans. In Porter County, only 8%. In Lake County, only 5%. Similarly, 43% of those in LaPorte are Bears fans, 38% in Porter are Bears fans, and then 36% in Lake County. Similarly, we look at Cincinnati, the bottom right. Those are also where you're going to have larger Bengal fan percentages. And more recently, Twitter has come out with their basketball map that shows followers based on different teams. And so what I did here was I compared Pacers versus the Bulls. And the Pacers, very, very high concentration in Indiana. So we look at the Pacers compared to the Bulls. Bulls are much more spread out. Much more dispersed pattern. When we look at Bulls fans, they're pretty much found everywhere when we compare them to Pacers fans, which are much more clustered, higher concentration there in Indiana, where Bulls fans are much more popular nationally.